And welcome. Today, I am delighted to have on this live cast Nasar Elarabi. Most of you are probably familiar with Nasar because he was a podcast guest on episode 6, where we talked about kind of his journey, kind of how he grew up, and kind of how he found his path into real estate. So with this live cast, this is an opportunity for it to serve as an expansion. So we're not going to focus a bunch of, like I said, as before, a whole lot of time on kind of, his height, his background, how he was raised. For more information about that, I would say refer to that episode. But Nasar Elarabi, for maybe the few of you who are not familiar, Nasar Elarabi is the real estate guru. He calls himself a guru instead of a guru because he gets it done. And his his yearly six-figure salary is a testament of that. And I wanted him to come back on to be able to share with our listeners what has been working for him or what has not been working for him to kind of give you the shortcut to be able to reach the finish line. Nasar, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I think the first thing that people are interested in is kind of what's the real skinny on real estate, because a lot of people they are waking up to realize, okay, the only into real estate is not being a realtor, but they can also get into certain ways like bird dogging, wholesaling, rehabbing, things that we're going to talk about today. So what was your path, and what path would you recommend for the beginner, maybe for someone who doesn't have a lot of money?
Well, basically, for me starting out on the creative real estate side, my path was wholesaling houses. And when you're wholesaling houses, you don't need, what I do is creative real estate. So I don't need money, I don't need credit because I get things done creatively. And if you're in a situation where you don't have much money to get started, I recommend wholesaling for people, and they can build up cash that way. However, it just takes hard work.
So wholesaling is basically how you got started, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So perhaps you did maybe the abbreviated version, but from the last episode, episode 6 of the Reaching the Finish Line podcast, you stated that kind of your journey was going to read us faithfully weekly. I'm not sure if it was, I think maybe it was monthly rather, going to areas faithfully and networking. And I believe you stated that the last kind of how you got started was kind of someone took you under their wing. Basically, you started off by giving value first, and once that I guess investors saw that how valuable you was, then I guess he's kind of opened the door.
That's correct. Just to get more into that. So basically, with this niche and with creative real estate, it was all new to me. So I was going through self-development before pretty much jumping into this, or at the same time, rather. So I just knew I had to give to get. So therefore, what I did was I volunteered for the RIA 2 years straight. And when I say RIA, that means Real Estate Investment Association. And a lot of you have these in your backyard. Some of you probably have up to 20 of them in your backyard, depending on your location these days. And you can find them nationalria.com or just going to meetup.com and type in real estate investment, and you can look at all the real estate clubs in your area. And but with my local RIA here in Charlotte, North Carolina, I volunteered, man, for 2 years straight. So, and just getting the information at the same time, just doing.
Great. And so let's talk about that. You say you volunteer. What was you actually doing? Was you trying to pass on leads? Kind of give the audience kind of what you were actually doing and providing value to the other real estate investors.
Basically, I was volunteering for the organization, doing what the organization needed me to do, serve speakers. People would look for certain properties. I go out and try to find them. I still do that to this day, actually. So, basically the work, helps set up help set up stuff at the meeting. And eventually I noticed that people see my dedication and they knew my name on the first basis. And, you know, I was able to ask them all types of questions about their business. And however, yeah, but me serving them was basically just volunteering for the organization, setting up, looking for properties for them and things like that.
Yeah, and that's really a good way because if you look at decades ago, even a century ago, the 20s, the 40s, the 60s, that was basically how it was done. They kind of called it an apprenticeship, but essentially you was doing the same thing. You know, you was offering value. You kind of, or now they call it internships, but you was offering value, and you was trying to, you know, basically kind of develop a rapport. You know, to develop kind of a profile for yourself and kind of make it easier for you to be able to work with people since you already have your foot in the door by giving your time. So I think that's very important, and you know, people should definitely consider you know, volunteering for RIA or even just, you know, being very just giving money to maybe a specific, you know, investor or group of investors to make it easier to kind of bridge that gap and hopefully working with them. So kind of fast forward past that, you know, you put your 2 years in of helping, you know, the Charlotte area. What was the next step at that point? Sorry, if you said, I'm ready.
Okay, so basically after like the first year, I just took out a year just, you know, learning. And what I did was the next step for me was just basically just going out there and just doing it. And while the midst of me doing it, I got approached by a mentor, and that mentor offered me their services. And when that mentor offered me the services, of course, I took it up. I took him up on that. And 8 months later, I was getting my first deal and got a check for $2,000 that I paid him. It was like $1,300. You know, nothing life changing. It was just basically, wow, this thing works. All my hard work paid off. So
Great. So this is probably a mentor that, you know, I would assume that, you know, probably a guy that doesn't work with a lot of people, only prefers to work with people he sees that are hungry and tenacious, you know, and really want to do this. So, you know, I guess by him seeing you stick around a lot, he said, you know what, you know, probably let me get this kid a chance. He looks hungry, he looks determined. And that's what you led to your kind of $2,000 real estate deal. Now, I'm quite sure that, you know, that's probably was like, whoa, kind of like more of a revelatory for you because you was like, you know, wow, this is $2,000. And unfortunately, you know, sorry, most people, they make that amount probably in a month, unfortunately. And so $2,000, you know, up front, I mean, possibly get maybe you know, that amount per week. That probably kind of really opened your eyes. So how did you feel after that first deal? And you know, what was you hoping to do? What was you hoping to do after that?
You know, basically after that first deal, it was like, wow, you know, it all worked. All the hard work just paid off. You know, even though it was a smaller check, it was like, wow, you know, just it paid off. So therefore, my next steps was basically like, how could I just make more of it? You know, so I started doing more marketing, looking for more deals.
Right. So you went straight into wholesaling, or was you bird dogging first before going into wholesaling?
Wholesaling. I went straight into wholesaling.
Okay. And you know, for the people who don't know what bird dogging is, maybe you can give people kind of a brief summary about that, because I'm quite sure a lot of people, you know, they hear bird dog, they hear property scout. Essentially, it's the same thing, but they you know, they want to know what it is. Maybe you can tell them.
Yeah, basically what bird dogging is individual who looks for properties for an investor, someone as myself, and gets a flat fee. But basically what they'll be doing is, it just depends. Sometimes they might just give the address and the investor does all the work, or sometimes they just might get the dialogue started on the deal, and then the investor, you know, finish out the work and they get paid the flat fee.
Right. You know, bird dogging is obviously kind of at the very bottom. You know, Nasar would tell you, but it could be a way to get started. You know, Nasar kind of got into kind of the mid level. Again with his dedication to the RIA. What were some of the skills that you learned in RIA that you took with you in building your real estate career?
Some of the skills, I mean, man, about 80 to 90% of the stuff I learned, man, I had took that in building my real estate career. Which, a lot of it is with any entrepreneur, it's like, you just have to be a go-getter to succeed. And it's not knowing the most information. It's the person who's willing to apply what they do know. So therefore, a lot of information from me going to all the meetings was pretty much the same information. Of course, I always got those one or two nuggets that you get, but a lot of it's the same information. It's just, are you going to actually do the work? And the difference between
often.
Yeah,
exactly.
Was I actually did the work.
Yeah, I always tell people, I often end up giving people the same advice, just using different words. And as you said before, that's what essentially what makes the difference is, one person implements it and the other person does not. So I think that's very important. What would be some primers that you can give the new real estate investor to kind of help them to be able to get to their first deal as quickly as possible? What were some mistakes that you made that you realized on your first deal, maybe your second deal, like I should have did that? What were some of those lessons, and perhaps you could share that with the viewers.
Okay, I just want to go into my biggest mistake, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so just talking about my biggest mistake was when so I actually started this creative real estate journey in 2010. All right. And for me starting this journey in 2010, this is not the first time my first real estate deal. My first real estate deal was basically in 2007 was my first flip. And I went about the traditional way. And the way I did it was basically me and my friend was watching Flip That House show. And we was like, man, we could do this. This is easy. All we got to do is buy a house, yell at some contractors, and make a bunch of money. So, that's what we thought it was going to be. At least that's what they show on TV. So long story short, we did everything wrong in the book. Just bought too high, bought the wrong cycle of the market. Got a bad. It was a whole bunch of things that we did wrong, and therefore, with us doing that wrong, we end up losing $7,000 a piece. But the biggest thing I can tell your audience is just educate yourself about real estate before jumping in real estate.
So, what was some good educational tools for you? As the RIA. Obviously you went to the RIA, you learned a lot, you was able to make some connections. What would be some other real estate education resources that you recommend?
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, I said, what was some other real estate, or what are some other real estate education resources that you would recommend? At the RIA, I'm quite sure you made a lot of connections, and you're able to learn a lot. What are some other resources that you can impart to the viewers?
Well, basically, as far as the resources, I have a book that explains everything called Flipping Houses Like Burgers. Flip houses like burgers on Amazon. Flip houses like burgers on Amazon. It explains everything, how I got started. No fluff. Just it's probably 5 pages of fluff, and then it gets into the actual how to do it. Flip houses with no money and no credit. And that's a great resources. And I'm not the only guy who has good information out there. There's a lot of information. You can go to your local RIA. If you want a mentor, you can check with your local RIA first, see who's credible, see who's actually doing deals. But yeah, I have a podcast called Flipping Empire Podcast with, we interview people who are succeeding in the real estate market today, not 10 years ago. So, I mean, it's a bunch of resources out there. You just got to do the work,
Yeah, perhaps now, sorry, you could talk about three things that were relevant 10 years ago in the real estate game, but it's not relevant now. Because I think that's very important. Sometimes, as you stated before, there are groups who were very successful 10 years ago, and they're not in the trenches anymore. They're not doing real estate deals anymore, and they still think that their 10 plus year old advice is still relevant today. So maybe you could share like what are maybe 2 or 3 things that was relevant back then that's not relevant now in real estate.
Let me say 2 or 3 things. Not too many people are, still putting ads in the newspaper because a lot of people don't read the newspaper. If you're in a major city, using the MLS as a prime source of getting deals, that just might not be relevant these days because of how hot it is in these markets. I'm trying to think of one more thing. Basically,
Well,
yes.
yeah, I was gonna say, let me ask you this, Nasar. The people who are somewhat knowledgeable about real estate, they may know about certain things on the investing side, but they're not actively and consistently doing deals. Do you feel that, or would you say in your experience that maybe an investor working with a realtor, is that a bit intimidating in a way? Because do you think the realtor may feel that, working with an investor may actually take business away from them? What do you think about that when it comes to the investor and a realtor relationship? Maybe you could talk about, some of your experiences.
All right. I mean, investors working with realtors, you just have to make sure that you're a good fit. The investor has to be, the realtor has to be open-minded, and the investor has to respect the realtor. So, sometimes you get these. I mean, if I was a realtor, I wouldn't work with a lot of investors. I would only work with investors who would know what they're doing because a realtor is essentially an entrepreneur like anybody else. They don't get paid until a deal closes. Same thing with me. I don't get paid until a deal closes. So they don't want to deal with somebody who's going to waste their time. And sometimes they're approached by people who think they're not wasting their time, but essentially you are. And it is what it is. And they want to spend their time making money, and they don't want no BS clients. Just like us as investor, we don't want to deal with homeowners who, all right. We want to deal with people who are ready to go. If the homeowner is on the fence, then yeah, we're going to give them time. We're not going to give them that much time. So basically, what the investor realtor relationship is basically you guys getting together and see if you're a good fit. Me personally, I'd rather a realtor tell me up front, hey, look, I don't work with investors, so I can't deal with you. That's fine with me. I'd rather you be honest. And
Right.
I'd rather, and if I was a realtor, I would do my due diligence with somebody. Like, okay, how many properties did you buy? What is your strategy? What do you play? All right, we put these offers in, we put all these offers in, you get it. Are you able to tackle this property? Or do what you say you're going to do. So, you just have to find the right realtors. Do I work with realtors? Absolutely. But it took me time to find the right realtors who understood my business model.
Right. Do you think for a beginning real estate investor that it will actually be easier for them as far as, finding success? Do you think it'll be easier for them to work with a realtor? Or do you think they'd be just as successful working alone?
Repeat that question. It went in and out. I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you think that it will be easier or easier for a new real estate investor to have success if they would start off working with a realtor as to opposed to not working with a realtor? Do you think that has any type of effect on success, or can someone be just as successful working by themselves without a realtor?
someone can be just as successful working by themselves without a realtor. And I'm proof of that. You know, it took me a while to start working with realtors. I stayed out of their way, they stayed out of mine. You know, so you can be just as you don't need a realtor.
So the person that you was working with, you know, the help got you, you know, he approached you, he offered you the services. Was he? So he wasn't a realtor. He was just another real estate investor.
Can you repeat that?
Sure. So the person that you started working with, the first time you got your first deal, he came to you, he approached you, the deal you made $2,000 off of. Was he a realtor, or was he also in a wholesale or rehabber that was kind of taking you under his wing?
Yeah, no, he was just an investor. He was just another investor who
Oh, okay.
he was an investor with a coach. He was not a realtor. No.
Okay. Okay. Very good. And so let's talk about that, because now for people who don't know, Nasar actually does both. Not only does wholesales, but he also does rehabs. Perhaps Nasar, you can give a primer. What are the pros and cons to being a wholesaler as opposed to being a rehabber?
Okay, so the pros of a wholesaler is you get to make quick cash out of thin air. So you get quick cash out of thin air. That's one of the pros of being a wholesaler. The cons is, you have to spend money in marketing. So sometimes you might get away with spending very little. Sometimes you might get away with spending none. But the pros of wholesaling is, and another pro is you have very little risk. You can't really lose money on the deal because you're not using your credit or money. So that's another pro. That's why it's extremely attractive to people. As far as rehabbing, it's a lot stressful. A lot of things go wrong. You are at risk and you can lose money, which I did in my first deal I want to say I was sold in '08, so about 7 years ago now. So you can lose money. You take a lot more risk. However, the reward is normally bigger. I want to say average rehab profits are normally somewhere 20K, 30K, somewhere around that, the national average. So somewhere between 20K and 30K is a national average for wholesale profits. And for rehab projects, whereas, typically an investor, if you're not in like California, typically if you're in another market outside California, your wholesale fees are probably going to be normally around 5K. So, so you might come across a deal and you might say, well, I can wholesale it right now and make $9,000 with no risk, no money, no credit, or I can take the risk and 4 to 5 months, pick up a check for $33,000.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So would you say that's typically the turnaround time for you doing rehabs? 4 months. As far as once you actually sign a contract to actually once you're actually able to sell it to, maybe I guess they call it wholesaling, selling to like a retail buyer, or maybe selling it to maybe another investor. Would you say that's kind of your turnaround time of 4 months?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, cool. Now, what about a wholesale? So people say, okay, well, rehab's kind of 4 months. What is it wholesale? What has it been for you? Or what would you say like an average amount of time that a person can expect when wholesaling?
Me personally, on wholesaling, once I get the contract signed, I would say 3 weeks. I'm picking up a check in 3 weeks or less.
Okay. Okay. So you have about three to 4 weeks, and then you have about 4 months. Okay. So that's kind of a better outlook of what a person can expect and kind of which ways. Now, one question I'm quite sure viewers have in mind, and so what would be if a person went to rehab? Okay, person may say, well, oh, okay, that's cool, but how do I get the funding to do the rehab? What has worked for you and what has not worked for you in regards to trying to secure financing to do rehabs?
Basically, you have what you call hard money lenders, And if you're not bankable, meaning that you're someone who doesn't have a job as myself, you don't have a W-2, you don't have friends and family with a lot of money who can, be your investors on the deal. You have what I use is just local hard money lenders who just lend me money based off the deal. Mm-hmm. If there's enough meat on the bone on the deal, they do it. If not, they won't do it. However, building those relationships took me years to do. It wasn't overnight, So because if you're in a major market and it's some investment activity, there are guys in your backyard who are lending their own money out of their out of their accounts and to fund these deals. And typically, they don't want to deal with inexperienced people. They want to deal with somebody that they know they're going to get their money back on. They don't want to deal with the new guy they got to chase down to get payments. Then he messed up the rehab and he messed up the money and his contractor ran off on him. So now they can't get in touch with him and they got to foreclose. They don't want to do that. Right. They want to live off the interest. So therefore, they like to deal with experienced people. So it will take time to build those relationships.
Right. Now, let's talk about that, Nasar. How did you find your first, how was you able to find financing for your first rehab? Because people are wondering, well, okay, I'm new. Well, I want to do this rehab thing. How do I actually get started to secure that financing? What was your experience to try to secure financing for your first rehab?
I partnered with somebody who was experienced and started to get connections. A lot of the people, they see me around, they knew me, and and eventually it's like, okay, this guy's here to stay. He's a go-getter. So that's basically how that worked. So it was just, so I partnered with somebody, got one relationship, and just been going on since there.
Right, and you leverage your partner's relationships for continued deals, I would assume.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so very good. I'm quite sure you probably met that partner. Was it from the RIA?
Yes, that's correct.
So it kind of goes back to what Nasar was saying earlier, how the importance of a RIA to be able to put in work, start first by giving value, and then from there, utilize that time that you put in, and hopefully that can open up some doors and meet new people. Having people to kind of assist you on their behalf, so you can also start realizing some success. So I would definitely recommend it, because I get it all the time. People, they ask here for me. People say, hey, feature me in the Huffington Post, or hey, feature me an entrepreneur, or all these other different types of things. But I probably get about dozens of those emails a day. But first starts off by building the relationship, by building a rapport. If I see a person, wow, their chances are much more higher than a person that just came off the street or just emailed me cold and say, hey, help me, do me a favor. Because as you stated before, it has to be a mutual exchange. So for real estate, the investor helped you, make your first $2,000, and he got a cut of that. So it was a win-win for him. You won because you got your first deal. You got your first deal under your belt, which prompted you to be able to have the capacity to work in future deals. But for him, it was a win-win for him too, because he's able to make some money off of it as well. So I think that's very important. When it comes to if you want to be a real estate entrepreneur, or if you want to be an entrepreneur of another type of niche, I think it's very important that if you expect to, if you want to guarantee your success, it first starts off by creating win-win solutions, by giving value first, and from that value, eventually you have a snowball effect. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely. So, now, Nasar, most of my real estate involvement is on the passive side. I typically invest in tax liens, certificates, those type of things. because really it's kind of hands off. Talk about the mindset, because the reason why I mentioned that is to say this. I feel like when it comes to being a real estate investor, especially, you have active real estate investing, and then you have passive real estate investing, and obviously what you're doing, rehabbing, wholesaling, all of those sorts, that's definitely active. You're constantly in the trenches. You're dealing with people. As opposed to the passive, you may have like private money lending, where you're actually the private money lender, and then you may have, or taxing certificates, something that I do where I just give the money and I don't worry about it. Really, the passive side, my experience, really is kind of hands off. It's less stressful. But talk about what the newbie investor, what the mindset they need to be successful, because you're dealing with all types of people now. So I'm quite sure I'm familiar with. You talk about in the last episode how you was almost done with the rehab and the roof collapse. So I'm quite sure you're dealing with all types of people. Talk about the mentality that a person will need to be successful in something like wholesaling or rehabbing.
All right. Yes. As far as the mindset, you have to have a go-to attitude. Nothing can stop you. Type of attitude. Are you gonna get down? Absolutely. Are things gonna not go right? Absolutely. And that's a normal thing in this business. But you just you have to be the type of person that you're in it for the long haul, so you're not gonna quit, because things go wrong all the time. Things go right probably 30% of the time. The rest, things are going wrong, and you got to get out there and fix them. And the difference between, an entrepreneur and an employee, well, if there's an issue with your paycheck or an issue with your position, your job description, whatever, you can bring that to management, and management can handle that. Whereas an entrepreneur, if there's an issue with your paycheck, your position, whatever, no, you got to resolve those issues. So your management, your customer relations, your transaction coordinators, of course, eventually you want to outsource all that stuff, but ultimately it falls on you, and you are responsible for your paycheck. And a lot of times I see that people know the business, know what to do. However, they have the wrong mindset, so they never succeed or never get a deal out of the business because they just have the wrong mindset. You have to be, I got so serious about this thing. I cut off cable. I stopped listening to music in my car, listening to audiobooks, podcasts, going to sleep with a book right by my bed, because I wasn't enjoying, my job. I didn't see myself there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years like the rest of those people that was there, or the rest of those people that, I was having this conversation with a friend. Like, I'm the guy who I would look over at, I got fired from my job, and that was my last job at 29 back in September of 2012. But before that, I was the guy at the job. I would look over and look at those people who were in their, late 30s, 40s, and 50s and whatever, and just say, not me. Not me. That will not be me. So, and that made me work harder on myself.
Right. And that's good. I'm glad you brought that up, because because success is a sacrifice. Most people aren't willing to make the sacrifice to have success. And basically, as you talked about before, you got rid of your cable, all of those sorts of distractions, and that's what most people need to do, but they fail to do it. Watching, most people know more about football stats than they do about something they're actually passionate about that can make them money. I've always say, hey, if you're really passionate about football, be a commentator. But obviously, often we have these distractions that's preventing them from reaching their finish line. Kind of going into the real estate side, let's delve in, because you're talking to people, which means that you have to have good rapport building strategies, or you're not going to buy their house. A person has to feel comfortable with you, or they're not going to sell you their house. And usually that's what usually that's once the person gets the contract. There's going to be different types of homeowners. You're going to have the ones that's probably going to curse you out, things like that. And you've done over 100+ deals. What how do you approach that? How do you find the balance in where you're firm as far as about your terms and the price, but at the same time, you're making a homeowner feel comfortable in doing business with you?
You just gotta know how to adapt to different styles. I mean, one thing, when I was working my jobs, I've done customer service, I've done sales, and you just have to know to adapt to different personalities because we're different. We're dealing with all different kind of people. And real estate is a people-based business, and you have to be able to please people and make fair deals with people. So my background, it allowed me to know how to adapt to certain circumstances.
So let's talk about one of those experience, Nasar. Let's talk about probably your most difficult real estate deal because maybe the homeowner was being very difficult, but in the end, you were still able to close that deal. Maybe you could share that experience.
Oh, bro, okay, all right. This deal here, man. Okay, so I had this home run deal, and I had to deal with the son, and the son, he was not. This is a person who was not money motivated, and he was not money motivated, and he was helping out his parents, and he was the most responsible one. And I had to work with the son and getting the contract signed and getting the deal to the closing. The son, we're getting the contract closed. Let's go get the contract signed. Let's go over that. Man, it took about 6 months to get the contract signed.
Wow.
And he was one of those people, there was no takeaway from him. Like, you couldn't use, well, look, man, if you don't have it by this day, the deal's off. That didn't bother him. It's just some people you just have to have patience with. And all right, so we finally got the contract signed. Then it took him 2 weeks to sign the documents, to get the documents signed to close the deal. So, but it was just me working with him. Hey, look, this is happening. This is going to happen. That's going to happen if you don't do this, because the city was about to foreclose on him for taxes.
Wow. And it's kind of weird too, because it was about to foreclose on him, but at the same time, he didn't really show no sense of motivation.
Correct. He wasn't a money motivated person, and you come across these people. Money is just not the motivation. It was just, all right, okay, just being patient with him, directed with him, and just keeping that courtesy with him. And eventually I got the deal done. It was first I was supposed to make about 30 plus on it, but it ended up, some things happened in between. He got a higher offer, so I had to, up my offer and end up making like 15,000 on it.
Yeah, and that's a great example, Nasar, because it's just with anything, things take time. Anything that you pursue, it's not always going to be a quick turnaround time. Often what that is luck. You should be at the right place at the right time. And, the more you prepare yourself for opportunities, often people get more, I guess if they say, luckier. But great preparation is what puts you in front of an abundance of opportunities. People call that lucky, but not necessarily if you well equip yourself, because the more opportunities that come to you, if you're more better prepared, you can actually execute those opportunities. So with Nasar, as you see, it took him 6 months just to get the contract signed. With me, it took me often 2 to 3 times as long as it would have kept a lot up than as I would thought it would be maybe a month or so. So it just really it requires patience. The whole entrepreneur framework. One attribute that really makes the entrepreneur is patience. And you're probably speaking to it a lot too, Nasar, when it comes to sales. Whether a person has an online business, or we're talking about here, especially when it comes to our real estate investing. In order to be successful in sales, the key is in the follow-up. Maybe you could talk about that. Maybe how many times that you've reached out to a specific homeowner until they actually decide to say, okay, I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you about selling my house.
It was going in and out. Could you repeat that?
Yeah. So When it comes to sales, that's something you're very familiar with, obviously. But perhaps you could talk about, because in order to be successful in sales, as the saying goes, the key is in the follow up. You have to follow up consistently if you want to be successful in sales. What was the longest that you've waited before a homeowner decided to want to sell their house with you?
Like 2 years.
Wow, 2 years. So yeah, so 24 months and talk about that experience if you would, because I'm quite sure people are wondering, what was that like exactly? Maybe there's some nuggets of wisdom that they could take away from that. So talk about that kind of the 2 year wait you had to go through. What was your strategy of marketing? Did you send a letter? Was it a postcard? Did you knock on their door? What was that like?
Well, basically, they called in previously, and they were not ready to sell at that moment. So what I had to do was every 2-3 months, just put them in my system to follow up with them every like 3 months. Eventually, when it came on, and eventually they were ready. And the deal took time, and we were able to get it done, and everybody was happy. So I mean, majority of these people you talk to, you're not gonna hit them. You're not gonna get them on the first time. It's gonna take time. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, man. You got to follow up with them. You got to have an understanding of the whole sales process, because it will make you a better real estate investor.
Yeah. So, and sometimes too, maybe it might be actually good to kind of switch marketing methods, kind of switch it up. Maybe a postcard on the first time, a yellow on the second time, maybe a phone call on the third time. Would you recommend that?
Yeah. Definitely.
Cool. All right, great. So we're coming to about 18 minutes. Got some questions printed out here, and we'll go through the first question. First question is from Mike. Mike says, "What would be 5 tools that I can use to optimize and be a successful wholesaler?" So I guess his question is, what would be 5 tools and resources that he could use as someone who does not have a lot of money, but that can make the most and help him be, more successful in wholesaling?
I mean, okay, 5. I don't know if I can give you 5 tools, especially since he asked me the question. If I can't think of 5, it's probably like 50. However, if you don't have a lot of money to get started, you have to be willing to sacrifice things and invest a lot of time. And that's what I had to do. I had to invest a lot of time, because when I got started with this, man, I was broke, working a job that I hated, and just being just miserable and just wanted out. So therefore, what I did was I sacrificed my time. Most importantly, if you understand the business, then that's all you need. You don't have to over-educate yourself. Just have to get out there and just do it. And one of the things that I did, and I talk about in my book, Flip Houses Like Burgers, available on Amazon, I got up every Saturday morning to farm neighborhoods. I had to put time in. So I did that for, 8 months until my deal closed, So you have to be willing to sacrifice, put that time in. You need to learn time management, so you can allocate the proper time into, becoming successful at this business.
Right.
So,
go ahead. I'm sorry. You finish up, and we'll go to the next question.
Basically, I was going to just say, like I said in the beginning of the call, it's not, if you understand wholesaling, then you understand wholesaling. It's not that it's simple, but it's not easy. The most important thing is you just getting out there and doing it. Right.
Rita has a question. She states that she lives 30 miles away from a big city. She kind of lives in a county where it's kind of just a bunch of small towns. Her advice is, she doesn't have a car. She wants to get started in real estate. What advice would you give her in her predicament?
Okay, doesn't have a car, wants to get started in real estate.
30 miles away from a big city. All the cities that she lives kind of close to are kind of small towns. What advice would you give her?
Okay, first things first, I want to say I would say you go over to that city, that major city, and put up bandit signs to we buy houses signs. But as a disclosure, check with your city ordinance and see if they're legal. And let's say that for the sake of this conversation, let's say they are legal, and I would start putting those up. And the people are going to call you. And you can do all the pre-screening, and you can send somebody else out there for, hey, I give you $10, put a short job on Craigslist. I give you $10 to $20 to go out and take pictures of this property. And you can actually flip that property on the internet as well, using multiple sites without actually going to the property. I'm inside of Charlotte, and I wholesale properties all the time that I never look at. So you can actually, as long as you're getting the sellers from that major city, you can actually, make money out of that city by not actually going to the properties. So because you don't have a car, don't let that stop you. I have heard stories of people who did not have a car, but they would get on the bus to put out those signs. And eventually they were able to close the deal, and eventually they were able to get a car and things like that. So don't let that stop you. And just because you live in a small town does not necessarily mean there's no investment activity going on there. There might be investment activity going on there as well. It's just that some towns there's none. But just because it's a small town does not necessarily mean that there's no investment activity going on. So check your backyard first.
Right. Yeah, I think that was very helpful, Rita. Hope that helped. Next question is from Jesse. Jesse says, "What's the success rate between doing a deal all online as opposed to doing a deal and actually meeting with the homeowner? Are you more greatly successful if you actually meet the homeowner, or keep you just as successful if you did it online and keep it limited to just a phone call?"
I couldn't give you the percentage rates. So let me say that I can't give you the percentage rates of versus what's going to be, what you're going to be more successful at, because I have a friend who all he does is virtual wholesale in different markets, and he partners up with people in those markets. So for example, I'm in Charlotte, so he'll partner up with me, get the sellers on the line, and we'll go from there. So he never ever meets the sellers. Are you going to get sellers who will say, "Hey, look, man, I don't feel comfortable doing this way. I got to meet the person I'm dealing with"? Absolutely, you're going to get that. That's a part of the business. And there are ways around it. Like, hey, look, okay, well, what days are you available? I'm going to send my partner out to meet you. And we'll do everything in person, and just explain that to them. But I don't, as far as versus the two, I don't know which one you would be more successful, because I have met some extremely successful virtual wholesalers and some extremely successful people who do it the traditional way. So I can't really compare the two.
And I think that's a very good response, Nasar. There's a lot of people. Are very interested. I would assume when it comes to virtual wholesaling, because typically, as long as you have a phone and you have a laptop and internet connection, you can basically go all around the world. As you stated before, there has been examples of people doing that, and I think that's what people are really interested in. Especially for a person like Rita. As her question kind of spoke to that, and a person who is maybe they're shy. Maybe they're they're not as confident in themselves when it comes to kind of talking to somebody. Some people's body language sometimes can be intimidating. It could be hard to talk to people, especially if you're not used to being a salesperson of any sort. So that was a good question. Let's see. Thank you, Jessica, for your question. We're going to go on to the next question. All right. Next question is from William, and William says, "What would be, what would be a good way to find private money lenders?" Because he said, from his understanding, he thinks that he may make more money from a deal working with a private money lender than a hard money lender. Perhaps you could speak to that and help William out.
Okay, basically he asked, how do I find private money lenders, correct?
Yeah, because he said according to what he found, and I believe it to be true. Nasar, you correct me if I'm wrong, because you definitely have tons of more experience. But he said it's easier, he thinks, because he can make more money off of the deal, and it's not as intimidating with the paperwork. Would you agree with that, or?
No, I agree with that. I mean, you're gonna make more money,
Okay.
private money, because private money is normally cheaper than your hard money rates. So it's just getting out there, man, and working it. How many people are you putting yourself in front of that potentially have money? Are you inviting people to your projects and letting people know what you do? Are you talking about what you do? You know, there's no set answer on how to find private money lenders. I can't say, well, hey, look, they're all going to be at Starbucks at 3 o'clock. Just tell them you have a good deal. You know, it's not that simple. It's you putting it out there. And once you start raising private money, you're going to be surprised at where it's at. You know, it was sitting next to you the whole time and you didn't even realize it. So,
I'm sorry, go ahead. And then we'll go to the final one. Go ahead. Finish that. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, so, you know, just keep that in mind once you're going to these RIAs and places like that, or, you know, people are talking about what you do. Let them know, hey, you know, basically what I do is I make my investors great returns on their money through real estate. How you do that? You know, and then you just keep talking and talking and talking, you know?
Right. Cool. And the last question is from Kimberly. Kimberly says, what would you advise me? Many people find me to be a very attractive girl, but they don't take her seriously when it comes to business. She's very interested. Well, you know, not gonna read her whole email, but basically to kind of paraphrase, she's very interested in investing in real estate. But the challenge is, you know, like, I guess she don't want to be viewed as like a hot, dumb blind, and she wants to be taken seriously when it comes to doing real estate deals. What advice would you give her, Nasar?
Oh, okay. I mean, just getting out there and just do it. And get that out of your head that, you know, you're attractive. You know, mindset is everything. Just get that out of your head and just show up, you know, what you get. Hey, how you doing? My name is Kimberly, and, you know, we spoke over the phone. I'm here to just look at the property and just take some pictures. All right, yeah, after reviewing the pictures, this is what I can do for you. Just keep the business, but just get that out of your head. Is that probably a challenge for you? Yes, it probably is. However, do not let that stop you. Everybody doesn't think like that. You get in front of the right seller, they don't care how you look, how good you look, how ugly you are. They just want to get rid of this problem. You know, they try going to the realtors, but they couldn't because they can't afford to fix up the house. The realtor listed it too high and they can't sell it. Now they're dealing with you and they don't care about certain things. So, you know, are you going to get people like that? Absolutely. Do I get people who, you know, might not sell me their house for X reason? Yes, it happens, you know, and that's just part of it. But I don't let that, you know, dictate the whole thing. Man, when I first got started, you know, I was young guy, you know, dreads, very long dreads too. And, you know, and I'm African American. Here it is. I'm walking into these people's house saying, hey, look, I'm gonna buy your house. Did people tell me, you know, not deal with me and dealt with somebody else because they didn't believe I can get the deal done? Absolutely, that happened, but I didn't let that stop me. It was I had a lot more people who did deal with me. So if I'm saying that the reason why I even brought that up, if I was able to get it done, I'm quite sure you can get it done as well. You just have to just change your mindset and just keep it going, you know?
I think that's excellent advice, Nasar, because, you know, so many look at you, and it's the same way. It's just different reasons. You know, maybe a potential homeowner may look at on a woman and just, you know, he may just talk to her because maybe he just kind of hope that he wants to get something else from her rather than him selling the house. But it's the same thing. When people may look at you, they may say, oh, I don't want to deal with him. He looks too hood or ghetto or whatever it is. But as you said before, there are always going to be people that's going to want to work with you. It's just kind of averages. It's all in the numbers. And I agree with you. You know, the reason like you're successful as you are, Nasar, is because your confidence, and that's a big attribute to your success. And you know, definitely would kind of co-sign that as far as telling Kimberly, definitely listen to Nasar. It doesn't matter, who you are or what you are. If you, the way I see this, if you think of yourself as a dumb hot blonde, well, that's the way people are going to perceive you. You know, so your confidence kind of starts with you first. If you want people to be more confident in you, you have to be more confident in yourself. So, would you agree with that, Nasar?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So definitely, we're going to wrap it up. But before we go, I definitely want to give you an opportunity, Nasar, and thank you for the questions and thank you for all the email questions, people, by the way. But I definitely want to give Nasar an opportunity to kind of talk about what he's doing, kind of what he's offering. So yeah, Nasar, talk about that. Talk about your website. Talk about your book, some things that you're working on, and how people can follow you.
All right, yeah. So basically, I have a blog. Please opt in, put your email in at realestateguru.com. That's real estate Duru, and then Duru is spelled Doru. Because I'm not a guru, I'm a Duru because I actually do this business. So you can find me youtube.com/real estate Duru, Instagram.com/real estate Duru, Facebook and Twitter the same thing, in my blog. As far as the book, please go to Amazon and type in Flip Houses Like Burgers. Flip Houses Like Burgers on Amazon. It's available in ebook format, and also it's available in on soft paperback. So you can pick up either or, and pick that up. And you need to reach out to me. Feel free.
Great. And I'm quite sure that most of you will definitely enjoy. I've known Nasar to be a person. Once he works on something, he kind of gives his all. So I'm quite sure you would definitely enjoy that book if you go ahead and pick that up via Amazon. And whatever social media outlet you're on, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, definitely follow Nasar there. But Nasar, thanks for being our guest.
You're welcome, man. Thanks for having me on.